Okay, today this demonstration is going to be on handles. We're going to make handles for this vase, and generally when handles are on a vase form, usually they have two handles for a symmetrical look. Most vases that only have one handle are usually pouring pitchers and those kinds of forms. So I'm going to put this off to the side real quick, and I'm going to show you a few types of handles. So when we're making handles, and we're making two of them, we want to have clay of similar volumes before we start. So I'm just going to take two pieces of clay, and again, my vase form is small, and so I'm just guesstimating and looking to see, this is a little bit more, and I'm going to now begin. So for handles, the best shape to make in making a handle is a carrot shape, and we do that by rolling a coil. So to make a carrot shape, my pinky is going to be touching the table and going back and forth while my hand is at an angle. So I'm going to take this clay and I'm going to begin. Notice my pinky's touching the table, and I begin to create a carrot shape. And this is a lot of clay for that small vase, but I'm going to drop it to make sure it stays flat and I don't get any undercutting. Oh, that's the bell. Lunch is over. So you always want to compare at each step. Okay, so there's one. I'm going to do the next. Again, pinky touching the table. All right. And notice that's a little cone. I'm going to drop it. And then to make it, see the difference in the two? To make it similar, I'm going to come up here and compress, and then I'm going to slowly work my way towards the end. Take a little bit more and work my way towards the end. When you make a carrot shape, watch this. When I make a carrot shape and I roll it, it rolls in a circle, okay? So the way to keep a carrot shape is as you're rolling, don't roll with your hand going straight. Let it flare, and that'll keep the carrot shape. If you insist on going straight, you will turn this carrot into a regular coil. Okay, so we're going to compare. One's a little bit thinner. Okay, now I'm going to stretch these out longer, but I'm just doing a comparison. I'm going to do one that's kind of spiraled. So I'm going to thin this out some more. Okay. And so the majority of the length of this carrot shape is going to be coiled up into a spiral. Okay, so that's a nice long skinny carrot, and that's what we're striving for. Don't worry about the end, we're going to be cutting that. So let me do this one. So again, the longer, the skinnier the carrot, the less you have to kind of turn your hand in that direction. We're going to just work this down. So you take some of the material here, and now we're going to work it down to this point. And let's do a comparison. That's pretty close. So we'd be probably cutting these here. So what I'm going to do one first. You notice I have a blow dryer handy. We'll be using that. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this, and let me show you an example. If you want to make something bend, this is what not to do. What not to do is go, oh, I want it to bend and I'm handling it all the way. But if you want to make something with a natural curve, you don't touch where you want it to bend, you let the clay bend itself. Okay, that's a much cleaner arc than it is if I'm here just trying to bend it with my fingers. Okay, so I'm going to just gently bring this into a spiral. Okay, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to bring this around. Wouldn't that be a neat little handle? And again, we might not use all this, but it's always good to have extra on the end. Extra length is always good. I'm going to curl that just a little bit more. Can you see here, this is the positive shape, but look at the negative shape. Look at the coil that isn't there. And when we're making handles, you want to focus on the negative shape just as much or more as the positive shapes. There's a nice curlicue. So now I'm going to put this one directly on top and start. Well, let me get it started this way. See how I'm coaxing it into shape? All right, so now I'm getting close. Now I'm going to put it directly on top and make sure that I'm getting close to the similar size. This needs more of a bend. Sometimes when you're first doing something, you know, sometimes if you want one, sometimes you need to make 2 or 3 and pick the best one. And that's how you get better at everything you do. So don't think, oh, darn it, I tried it once, I wasn't good at it, and I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. You know, make several before you be judgmental on yourself. And you shouldn't beat yourself up anyway. So I'm pretty close for both of these. Okay, can you see that? So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to dry these, firm them up so they don't move. Move my vase out of the way so it doesn't get hot from the blow dryer. Turn them over. Do the other side. Okay, that's enough just to get it so it isn't moving all over the place. Here's one. And there's the other. Okay, so there's one set of handles. I'm going to continue using the carrot shape, but I'm not going to use a lot. It was a lot of clay, especially for such a small vase. So I'm going to take even a smaller amount. And, you know, a best way when I show how to make roses and flowers, I like to make the pieces of clay into a ball. And it's a lot easier to make a judgment as to whether they're similar amounts of clay. This one's just a little bit more. But you get better at doing it. So again, I'm going to make carrots. And I'm going to make long, skinny carrots again. Again, pinky touching the table, fingertip to palm. And look how my hand is moving. It's flaring outwards, okay? So this is going to be another long one, but definitely a little bit smaller than those. Okay, that's what I'm striving for, one of these. I'll do another one. Practice, guys. It takes practice. So if you want 2 handles, you might need to make 4 or 6. Pick your best ones. The others, put the clay back in the bag. Use it again. Okay, now, nice long and skinny. Let's see what we have. Good, close. And I'm going to cut these. I'm going to use, I got my little credit card thing here, my homemade rib. I'm going to cut those about just like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do differently with these, I have a piece of wood. These are what we have in the studio. We call these bats. These are thin pieces of wood. But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to separate these. And I'm going to do one at a time. I'm going to flatten them. So I'm like this. And I put the board directly on top. I'm going to press on the thick part first. Okay. There. And I'm going to press just a little bit more. Sometimes it's hard to be consistent with both of them. But this is going to be a handle. Okay, we'll do another one. This one is a little bit wider. Let's see. They're pretty close. Look at how I can fix these, though. I'm putting them together. I got them at the same end. I'm just going to drop gently on the edges. Good. Now I have theirs pretty darn close. So now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a decorative edge with this. I could use a lot of different things. I'm looking for a nice crisp edge on this bat. And I think this will work. I'm going to stand up to do this. So I'm going to put 2 little lines here. Look at this, with the edge of the bat. You could maybe use your rib too. Okay. Nice little decoration, very quick, very simple. But adds some focal interest to the work. Okay. So now we've got some handles. Here's my vase. And I'm going to contemplate how am I going to put these on. But look how I shape these. This is like a long tongue. I'm going to hang on to this end. And look I'm going to just with my thumb hold this end down. And I'm going to let the clay naturally curve itself. Okay? Let the clay bend itself. Look at that nice little arc shape. Do another one. And let's put them, this one's a little bit more rounder. Bend it a little bit more. We'll put it on top and just see if we're close. Not bad. So, possible additions for this. I'm going to use this because at the angle that we're at, I'm going to support this vase like that. Okay. So, imagine two handles like this. Okay, one. And we'll go directly opposite, two. Okay, you get an idea. Okay, I haven't attached them yet. Let me to make a value assessment right here and see. I have one other option. I kind of like these. I like how they're a little high. They're kind of above. See how the top of the handle is a little above the opening? That's got some interest, okay? That's one. Let's see these. Okay, we'll do this again, tilted at an angle so you could see. So we're not going to use all this, but look at those handles. A lot of interest, right? So let me show you a trick here. Let me get a tool. So the way we do this, hopefully my shoulder won't cut into the picture. If we wanted them like that, we wouldn't attach it like that. Look how I'm going to put the handle behind the vase, and I'm going to use this knife, and I'm going to scribe that edge. You see that? I'm going to cut and move this out of the way so you could view. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. This is my template piece. And now I'm going to put this one directly back on top again and get it lined up. Okay. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to make that same cut. Okay, the technique I just used there is called scribing. I scribe, I put the work behind the form and then follow the contour of the vase, and I scribed a line, and that's what I'm cutting here. So I'm going to blow dry these. I think I'm going to add these handles, and I want them firm so they don't shift. See how it's holding? See how the shape is holding and not moving? If this was drooping, I wouldn't even pick it up yet. I would dry it more. Okay, blow dryers are great. Spot drying. Okay. I've made two handles, and now I want to attach them. This is what we do. First off, on our vase, we're going to try and divide the vase in half on the top. And I'm just going to put a mark that I will wipe away. So you see those two lines? That's telling me that's halfway. So now I'm going to position my vase. I have a modeling stick. And I'm going to position my first handle on that line. And I'm getting it, look how I'm getting it lined up. And this is still soft, so I'm going to bend this down here to make it conform to the piece. And now look at what I'm going to do. That's about where I want it. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to scribe around the perimeter of my handle. And then see how where it comes in contact? It doesn't come in contact everywhere, but where it does come in contact with the vase, I am putting markings so I know where to scratch to attach. So I'm going to leave that in place for right now. Okay. And that's pretty close. Now I'm going to come to the other side. Uh-oh. You see how that's leaning? It moved on me, so let me correct that. I'm going to shift this over and just move it a little bit. So again, nothing is permanent until you scratch to attach it and call it done. So it's always important to just keep an eye and I mean, that's a good demonstration right here, showing you, you know, if it's wrong, don't attach it if it's wrong. Take the time to do it right. See, that's a lot more centered and straight. Now I'm going to come to the other side and make sure I'm in line. Okay, let me do it this way, and then I'll turn it to your perspective. And so it takes, you know, lowering your head or lifting the work up and checking to see if it's centered and balanced. Taking the time to do that is, whoa, that happens too. Sometimes things fall off. If that happened and one of my handles fell on the floor, I wouldn't make one handle to try and match this one. I would just make 2 more new handles, okay? That would be a better use of time, because it would take you a lot longer to try and be consistent and to make it. So this is what the vase is going to look like. This one is a little bit higher, so I'm going to raise this up a little bit. Okay, and now scribe. All of this strategy to do this, you will begin to see as the more you work with this material, there's kind of like these checks and balances that, you know, before you let the piece dry out, you have a quality control check. And you can always change, if you can maintain moisture on your piece, you can always fix it. But when you let it dry out, it's like to the point of no return. So here's my scribe marks. And again, I score using the chisel point, and I'm going to dip in water, and I'm going to keep my score marks right inside this area. Sometimes when your pot is dry, it's good to have a paintbrush. Look at this. I can dab some water there, and then when I score, see how I'm building up that paste? That's what we want right there. I'm going to put a little water here. I think, oops, that was a little too much water. So let me do this here. And just, it barely touches right here. Okay, there's one. Let me do the other. And again, also just be consistent. You're scoring vertically, or it could be horizontally. I like vertically. It's longer lines, longer the length, meaning I don't have to do a bunch of short ones horizontally. Okay. Now, we know where to score here. We know this is all going to be scored here. But let me show you a trick. If I'm like this, and I've added water, and I have score marks, and I put this here, and I want to know where to score on the handle, I can just gently put it where I scored, and then take it off, and you'll see where that's dirty, or where it has that extra slip. That tells me where to score. Okay, so that's just, it helps instead of guessing, because if you score on an area that isn't going to be touching the clay, then that's an area you have to clean up and smooth out. That's a nice little trick. And see that little tiny wet mark there? That's right at the rim. Now again, a little bit of water, build some paste, let that clay create that slip. Okay. Now, I'm not drowning it with water, but I'm going to put this handle on. Watch what I'm going to do. I put it here, okay? And I'm going to get this. Now, I need to turn it my way to see if I'm vertical. I'll give you the perspective again once I'm done attaching. But look at what I do. I'm twisting, and you can move it up and down. Like when my story about my little friend, you give it a little bit of a twist or a shift, and it helps the clay bond, okay? So that's the first attachment. There's the first handle. All right, now I'm going to do the second one. Handles can definitely, how would I say, bump up or add another focal interest. And again, the negative space in the handle is important, just as important as the handle itself. So be aware of that. And again, you want a nice clean line or a nice clean arc. You don't want it all bumpy and jagged or dog-legged, whatever kind of term you want to use. Okay, so I'm going to check. Just put it here for a second so I can find my other marks. There we go. now score. So there's the, and then a little tiny one right there. Okay, just a little bit more. And we'll line this up. So yeah, get in line, eyesight. Take your time to do that. Okay, wiggle it together up and down, side to side, get it to bond and join. Make sure you're in line. Okay. Now that we have the handles attached, we're not done yet, okay? So, one is a little more round than the other. We'll try to change the shape just a little bit, okay? I'll stick with that. That's what we have. Now I want to show you the next step. When you join handles, this is a way to strengthen them to a point that they'll be really secure, really secure, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm going to take the chisel end of my modeling stick and I'm going to come here and I'm going to hold the, versus the surface of the pot, I'm holding the modeling stick vertical and I'm going to compress and I'm going in about a 1/16 of an inch around where I joined each of the connection points. And in doing handles, handles are a stress point, meaning you're going to be putting a lot of pressure and weight on that connection. And in doing this, this kind of welds and bonds the handle to the body of the pot. Okay. And do this side. Again, my pot is firm. It still has, you can still see the shine, you can still see the moisture to it, and it is still cold to the touch. When your work is cold to the touch, that's an indication you have moisture. When your pot is at room temperature, more than likely it's bone dry. It's beyond working. You cannot add wet clay to dry clay. It will separate when the wet clay dries, so that's really important to know. Okay, now you see I have those lines. I went vertical. Now look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, I went vertical to scribe. Now I'm going to come back horizontal and I'm going to compress and push. My handle is actually right there and this is the body of the pot, but what you think is now the handle all the way to the body, that's actually some of the body of the pot. Hard to explain a little bit, but just watch what I do. I'm going to come here like this and compress that edge. When I add handles, I like to express the separateness, meaning the origin of the handle didn't grow out of the form, it was an attachment. And I do the same with teapot spouts and other things. So, yeah. Now this looks kind of rough, right? I'll show you how to clean that up in just a second. I might be slightly out of camera view, guys. Bear with me. I'll give you the full thing here. Now, I've done that. Now look what I do. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to take most of the water off the paintbrush. And look I can't get my finger in there and smooth as good as I can with this paintbrush. So essentially the paintbrush just becomes an extension of my finger and it's pliable, it gives, but yet it delivers water and smooths. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just come in here and smooth these connection points. Whenever you get a brush for ceramics, you want natural hair. Camel hair, some of these are, a lot of these brushes come from China. You go to Hobby Lobby, the natural hair brushes are what we use in ceramics. Synthetic brushes are used for acrylics and other kind of paints. Natural hair brushes for ceramics. So now let me go ahead and do this one. And I have some blips and blems I need to fix up. So before I let this dry, I'm going to take the time to smooth out. And I'm also going to use this same vase form to apply a decoration, which will be on the next demonstration video. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let me put this back here and show you. Okay, so there's the handles. All right, and it really adds to the vase form. I think it adds a uniqueness, something more to look at. And like I said before, I have a lot of surface blemishes now. Let me show you how to fix some of these surface blemishes. If you can see, I have some dents and nicks. So you can just get a wet finger or a wet thumb and just get your thumb wet and just do circular motions. And wherever there's a dent, I mean, most of the hard, rough indentations and coil lines of not smoothing well, that should all be taken off with a flexible metal rib or one of the gift card ribs. And then all of these other imperfections, these very minute and minor ones, can be cleaned up. Just a wet finger and smooth. And then lastly, I have a little dent there. When I laid it on its side, this caused this bottom to curl up a little bit. But a little bit more. So there we are. A couple of handle options, okay? And if I would have done these, right, it would have been like that. You can see, like, handles can also be kind of like ears to a vase, right? So there is one handle demonstration. Okay, that's it on this demo.